forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. This block is called Whimsy. It finishes at 12 inches. This was a free download from P&B Textiles, and I'll have a link in the description below the video. I changed up the pattern because their strips were cut 2 inches, and I wanted to be able to use jelly rolls 2.5 inches. So that's a little bit different. You can use my version, or you can look at their version and cut the 2-inch strips. Here's the diagram, and I call each of these units a Whimsy unit because that's the name of the pattern. So there are 4 Whimsy units in this block. Here's a scrappy kind of quilt made with 35 blocks. It finishes 60 inches by 84 inches, and they're set 5 across and 7 down. I have instructions for cutting the fabric for that quilt down here, and we'll get to that in a little bit. There are 3 patches. This is patch A. It's a trapezoid. I'm going to show you a way to cut this that you don't have to measure these out. But here are the measurements if you want to measure 7 1/4 inches by 2.5 inches and then cut off your 45-degree angle. But I'm going to show you how to cut the entire strip with just your ruler. I also put instructions here for stitch and flip or using the folded corner clipper method. You cut smaller rectangles and you cut more half-square triangles or squares. The information is here for stitch and flip and folded corner, but we're not going to cover that in this video. So we'll need 2 patches, 2 trapezoids of each of the fabrics. Patch B is a 2-inch finished half-square triangle. We cut 2 7/8-inch squares, cut them in half once on the diagonal for 2 patches. We'll need 16 patches for this block. Here are the AccuQuilt dies that will cut these patches. I'm going to demonstrate how to piece the rotary cut patches and also how to piece the AccuQuilt cut patches. They're just a little bit different. And then for stitch and flip or folded corner clipper, this is what you cut out of the squares. Patch C is a 2-inch by 6-inch finished rectangle. We cut 6.5 inches by 2.5 inch rectangles, and we'll need 4 patches of the background. To piece this block, we first take all of the B patches and all of the A patches, and we're going to sew a B patch to either side of the A patches. Then we'll put them together, 2 of them of the same fabric with the rectangle, patch C, and put together a Whimsy unit. And then we'll have 4 units to finish the block. So I got a little bit different thing going on here. The A patches are kind of over here and over here. I've gotten some pre-piecing done first. And then the B patches, here are the rotary cut patches, and here are the AccuQuilt cut patches, and I'll demo those in a minute. But I wanted to show you how to cut the A patches off of a strip of fabric. You will get 4 sets of A patches. All right, I have a strip here, 2.5 inches times the width of fabric, and I've got them folded wrong sides together, and it doesn't really matter because the trapezoid is symmetrical. So here's my ruler, and the ruler I'm using is 6.5 inches, but it has one diagonal line, 45-degree line, and over here is, I'll call this the 0 point, because it starts here and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 out this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4 out this way. So this is my 0 line when I talk about a 0 line. Now I'm right-handed, so I start on the left-hand side. I would imagine that a left-handed person would start on the right-hand side. So I'm lining up my 45-degree mark along the bottom edge of this strip, and I've moved it over as far as I can so I'm not on the selvage over here. And then I'm going to cut this 45-degree angle. Okay. Now we're not going to move the ruler as far as rotating it anywhere. We're just going to slide it down. You find your 5-inch mark. So here is the 0 point. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the 5-inch mark. We're going to slide this mark over to where we just cut. So slide that over. And now, just as a check, I'm going to line up this 45-degree line at the bottom of the strip. And then check again that you're on the 5-inch mark over here. Then you cut. And here are your first set of trapezoids. And you only need one of these sets for a block, but we're going to get more than that out of this strip. So I leave my ruler like this with my 0 point in the same direction. And I flip this over because it just got too confusing for me to try to flip the ruler. So it's easier to flip the fabric. Now you just put your 5-inch mark on the line you just cut and line up your 45-degree mark at the bottom. So 5-inch line, 45-degree line, and cut. And here's your second set. Take this and flip it over and do the same thing. 5-inch line, 45-degree line. Cut. Cut and flip, cut and flip. Here's another set, and we'll get one more set. So we'll get 4 sets out of this. Okay, so, whoops. 5-inch line, 45-degree line down here, and cut. What's happening there? Okay. And you may be able to get one out of here. So here are 4 sets, so this is enough to go. If it's scrappy, you can just mix them all up and put them in another block. Now I'll show you how to piece these. First I'm going to show you the rotary cut pieces. So here are my 2 7/8 inch square, and we've cut them in half once on the diagonal. They will go like this. And the really nice thing about this way to do it is we don't have to trim our corners or anything. They'll just come out perfectly without trimming. We'll flip this over and you'll match this bottom and the side. So you match 2 sides of your triangle and then stitch 1/4 inch. Do the same thing on this side. Flip it over, match the bottom and the side, stitch 1/4 inch. And here's what it looks like when you've stitched it. It comes up a little bit here, but that's okay. We can just trim it later. Now we're going to press the seams open, and this is what it looks like with the seams pressed open. And next we'll do the AccuQuilt cut method. We have our 2 pieces and they'll go like this. And we do these the same way. Flip it over and match the bottom and the side. And here you have your little point is cut off on this side, and then this edge up here you line up with the edge of the fabric and stitch 1/4 inch. Do the same thing over here. Flip it over, match the bottom and the side and this part up here, then stitch your 1/4 inch. Here's what the AccuQuilt cut half square triangles look like after stitching. They're almost at this point, and then they end down here at this point. Then press your seams open. For either of the methods, the rotary cut or the AccuQuilt cut, you'll have a few nubs to cut off. Cut off all the nubs and then finish all of your trapezoid units. You'll have 8 total of these units. All of these units are done. Now we'll make 4 Whimsy units. We'll stitch a rectangle, which is a C-patch, like this. Stitch the seams and then press them open. Now all your Whimsies are finished, so we just lay them out in a way we like them. So these 2 together and these 2, press the seams and then sew the 2 rows together. The instructions at the bottom to make the 60 by 84 quilt shown, it uses the same piecing that I demonstrated. So for the accent fabrics you need 35 assorted 2.5 inch times width of fabric strips. We're going to use the cutting method shown in this video to cut 8 A patches from each strip, and we'll cut a total of 280 A patches. For the background you need 3 3/4 yards. You'll cut your B patches. You'll first cut your strips 2 7/8 inch, then subcut them to 280 squares and cut the squares in half diagonally. And you can substitute this by cutting your AccuQuilt squares or half square triangles. Then the C patches, which are the rectangles, you'll cut 9 strips at 6.5 inches times the width of fabric and subcut them to 140 2.5-inch segments. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.